2026 didn't begin with fireworks. It began with a knock that came from inside my room. They say the year changes at midnight, but for me, 2026 began 1 minute earlier. That's when the knocking started, from inside my house. The last night of 2025 was silent in a way that felt unnatural, like the world itself was holding its breath. No fireworks outside, no laughter. Even the stray dogs that usually barked all night were quiet, as if they knew something I didn't. I was alone. Not the dramatic kind of alone, just a man sitting on a thin mattress in a rented house, phone in hand, waiting for the clock to hit 12 o'clock. Waiting for a new year, waiting for a reason to believe things would finally change. 2025 had taken too much from me. My mother died in March. My job ended in July. By December, even my friends had stopped calling. So I whispered to myself, just survive one more year. The wall clock ticked loudly, 11:58 p.m. The bulb above me flickered once, then again. The room dipped into shadow and returned like it was blinking. That's when I felt it. Not fear, a presence. The air grew cold, sharp enough to sting my lungs. My breath came out in thin white lines, even though the heater was on. I stood up slowly, my heart suddenly racing for no reason I could explain. Then, knock, knock. 2 soft knocks from my bedroom door. I froze. I lived alone. The front door was locked. The windows were sealed. And my bedroom door was already open. The knocks came again, slower this time. Knock, knock. My throat went dry. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I took 1 step back, then another, until my legs hit the bed. "Who's there?" I finally whispered. Silence. The clock ticked. 11:59 p.m. The bulb flickered harder now, shadows crawling along the walls like living things. My phone buzzed in my hand, a notification from an unknown number. Message: "You promised you'd never forget me." My heart dropped, because I had seen that sentence before, a year ago, from my mother's phone. I typed back with shaking fingers, "Who are you?" The reply came instantly. "Look at the door." Slowly, so slowly it felt like my bones were moving through water. I turned my head. The bedroom door was no longer open. It was closed, and something was breathing on the other side. A wet, uneven sound, like lungs filled with sorrow. The handle began to turn. Memories flooded my mind, memories I had buried. The hospital room, the machines, my mother's final night, how she asked me to stay and how I left. "I'll come back tomorrow," I had said. Tomorrow never came. The door creaked open an inch. Darkness leaked through the gap, thicker than shadow, pressing into the room like smoke. My phone buzzed again. "You left me alone when the year changed." The clock struck. 12 a.m. January 1st, 2026. The bulb exploded. Glass rained down as the room plunged into darkness. The only light came from my phone screen, shaking violently in my hand. The door flew open. She stood there, not the way I remembered her. Her face was pale, stretched too tight. Her eyes were deep, hollow pits filled with tears that never fell. Her mouth opened, but her voice came out wrong, layered, echoing like many people speaking through one body. "Happy New Year," she said. I collapsed to my knees, crying, apologizing, begging. The room smelled like antiseptic and old flowers, like death. She stepped closer. With every step, the walls peeled away, revealing memories carved into them. Every moment I ignored her calls, every excuse, every later. "Do you know," she whispered, leaning close, "what happens to people who abandon the past and beg the future for mercy?" She touched my forehead. The room vanished. I woke up. Morning light poured through the window. Birds chirped. My phone lay on the floor, screen cracked but silent. Relief washed over me. A dream. Just a nightmare. I laughed weakly and stood up. That's when I noticed the calendar. It still read December 31st, 2025. The clock on the wall ticked. 11:59 p.m. My phone vibrated. A new message. We're still in the first minute. The bedroom door began to knock. From the inside, because some years don't start to heal you. They start to collect what you refuse to face. And 2026 is still knocking. They say a new year is supposed to feel like a clean page, like the past quietly steps aside and lets you move on. But when 2026 arrived, I learned something no one warns you about, that some years don't erase anything. They come to collect what you've been avoiding. On the last night of 2025, I was alone in a house I hadn't stepped into for over a decade, a place that still remembered my footsteps, even though I wished it wouldn't. Outside, the city was alive with fireworks and laughter, but inside these walls the air felt old, heavy, like it had been waiting for me to come back. I told myself I was here to find closure, to face memories on my own terms, but deep down I knew that wasn't true. I was here because running had stopped working. The clock on the wall said 11:49 p.m. It ticked too loudly, each second landing in my chest like a reminder that time never forgets, no matter how hard we try to. I sat there staring at the door across the room, the same door I had slammed shut years ago during a moment of anger I never got to take back. That night replayed itself in my mind without permission. The shouting, the silence afterward, the way I chose pride over responsibility and walked away. My younger brother had been on the other side of that door. People called it an accident. They said these things happen. But time has a way of disagreeing with what people say. And as the seconds crawled closer to midnight, I felt that disagreement pressing in from every corner of the room. The lights flickered once, just enough to make my heart stumble, and for a moment I thought I heard breathing that didn't belong to me. I held my own breath listening, convincing myself it was just the house settling, just imagination, just guilt finding a new way to speak. 11:56 p.m. My phone buzzed in my hand, the sudden vibration sharp enough to make me flinch. No notifications should have been coming in. No one knew I was here. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. You came back too late. My fingers went cold. I didn't reply. I couldn't, because there was only one voice that sentence belonged to, and that voice had been silent for 12 years. The clock ticked again, louder now, as if the room itself was counting down with me. I stood up, feeling unsteady, and that's when I noticed something was wrong. The clock had stopped. 11:57 p.m. No ticking, no movement, just frozen time staring back at me. The house groaned softly, a long, deep sound, and somewhere behind me a door creaked. I turned slowly, my pulse hammering, and saw that the door across the room, the one I hadn't touched since I arrived, was now slightly open. Darkness pooled behind it, thicker than shadow, pressing forward like it had weight. My phone buzzed again. You never looked back? The words blurred as my eyes filled with tears I didn't realize I was holding. Memories hit me all at once. The argument, the way I chose to leave, the phone call the next morning that changed everything. I took a step back, shaking my head, whispering apologies to an empty room that didn't care if it forgave me or not. 11:58 p.m. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, the breathing returned, closer now, uneven, familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. I felt the air shift as something moved toward me, slow and deliberate, like it had all the time in the world. My phone screen was the only light left, and another message appeared without a sound. Midnight is where the truth waits. The clock struck. Not 12 times, just once. 12 a.m. January 1st, 2026. The door opened fully. He stood there, not as I remembered him, not whole, not right. His face was pale, stretched tight, eyes too dark, like time had hollowed them out and left something else behind. When he spoke, his voice wasn't angry. It wasn't sad. It was calm. And that was worse than either. "Happy New Year," he said. I collapsed, the weight of every excuse I'd ever made crushing down on me. I begged. I apologized. I promised things I knew I could never fulfill. The house seemed to lean in, listening as if this moment was the reason it had kept standing all these years. "You thought time would bury it," he said softly. "But time remembers better than you." He stepped closer, and with each step, the walls around us began to change, peeling away into memories. Every moment I ignored, every chance I had to turn back and didn't. The air smelled like dust and regret. My chest hurt, I couldn't breathe. "This is what 2026 is for," he continued. "Not new beginnings. Accounting." He reached out and placed a hand on my forehead, and the world shattered into white noise. I woke up to sunlight. Birds outside. A calm morning. The house looked normal, empty, harmless. My phone lay on the floor beside me, cracked but silent. I laughed, weak and shaky, convincing myself it had all been a nightmare brought on by exhaustion and guilt. Then I looked at the clock. 11:59 p.m. December 3.